Liftoff will 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. What's up, everybody?
We are back. This is Frozen Takes for all y'all watching out there. We are three idiots
Allegedly.
who are one of them idiot and two of them. But we are three guys. We are not sports insiders. We are not analysts. We've never even operated anything even remotely related to a sports franchise. But we like to talk sports and talk nonsense to each other. We are Frozen Takes. We are probably the weirdest sports podcast, if I can talk, that you've ever watched. We look forward to our conversation. Guys, I'm joined by Ray and Fred. I'm Alex. Guys, how are we doing tonight?
I feel like, Fred, you spiked his drink already. I don't know how you got UFOs all the way down to his place.
Listen.
I got my UFOs.
He's got the Uncle UFO's whiskey, and he's rocking out already. I'm drinking some coffee from a place that we don't get sponsored by, so I'm not even going to say it.
No,
but
everybody needs it. Sponsored by Frozen Takes.
Yeah.
Let me stand corrected. I'm too poor to get coffee consistently from this place, so this is a refill from my own coffee pot, but just saying.
Right. So we're all having a beverage of choice. Some of us are, having a little bit more spicy beverages than others. But at any rate, we're talking about all kinds of stuff football related. We are going to be going into the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. And man, the wild card round was wild. The three of us, we did a live stream of the Packers and Bears game. That was a wild. I know Ray is still.
We're going to skip past that one. We're not going to talk about that one.
I know Ray is still salty about it. My Eagles,
not the right word.
Yeah, my Eagles, as I predicted, lost to the San Francisco 49ers, and Fred's Giants are still in Cancun. So,
well, technically, we're all joining them, so we have no room to talk right now. So.
We no longer have room to talk.
We're kicking it, loving life. It's vacay, and but allegedly not vacay, which I will update everyone on here soon. But
things are going to be moving and shaking. It is the off season for some of us, but not for all of us in the NFL. It's going to be division week this week. We have some interesting matchups to discuss, and we're also going to be discussing, as we like to call it, the end of season autopsy. We're going to be talking about the Packers, where they went wrong, what they did right, what they need to do better. Same thing for the Eagles, and also the Giants. So this is going to be our autopsy episode. I know we're looking forward to discussing that. Some of us a little bit more than others. But guys, now that all three of our teams are officially in the offseason, are we feeling a little bit more comfortable watching games? Or are we still just a little bit PO'd and just really don't want to even think football?
I will dive into my feelings of Green Bay and their season when I do my segment, because I still have a lot to unload from that game, because there's a lot of internal hatred that I'm still going through with that. So
still the
I'll say this. Obviously the Giants season was over before you guys' seasons were. So having that closure is kind of, it is what it is. and watching the rest of the season. And those of you who made it to the playoffs and flopped or made a good showing, whichever it was.
Wow. We
you
went
guys,
there. We went there. Okay.
you guys are still struggling through, but there's a lot of things to keep us Giants fans on the edge of our seats too right now. The future is definitely way up in the air, and we'll talk about it.
We certainly will. So, guys, let's first of all, before we get into our autopsy, let's discuss the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. We have some interesting matchups. Ray, I know you've been kind of eyeing things up, especially maybe hoping for a little bit of proxy revenge. Maybe the Bears get trounced. But, Ray, kind of give me your take right now for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs.
So the way I look at it here is we actually had some news coming out today with the 49ers Seahawks game. Darnold is going to be questionable. And who's to know if they're going to be playing with a backup quarterback or not? That could be a big game changer coming up for the 49ers Seahawks game. That could go easily in the 49ers' favor, where you also have to look at George Kittle, torn Achilles. He's done possibly all next season as well as the rest of this year. So who's to say what key players missing out of this game? That's going to make it interesting, but it's always been next man up. We're getting a feeling with a lot of these teams in the NFL this year. Especially the teams that have depth on their roster that are going the furthest.
Especially the 49ers. We've said this all year. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting for the 49ers to just kind of fall flat on their faces with injuries, but it hasn't happened. I mean, short of a meteor smashing into Levi Stadium, I don't know what is going to trip those guys up, honestly.
That's kind of why I've been so high on San Francisco. If you guys kept hearing me talk about it all going into the end of the season, I've been high on San Francisco, saying the 49ers are going to make a run. Granted, they didn't win the division like I said they were going to, but you have to admit they were one game away. They were, what was it, a one-possession game away from the Week 18 game in Seattle. So they were right there in the mix of it all. So they still have a shot at this. This is a rubber match with Seattle, and 3 out of the 4 teams left in the NFC or NFC West teams, which carries on my prediction as well. Whoever represents the NFC in the Super Bowl will be from the West.
Yeah, you said that, Ray, and I will admit I will eat crow because I didn't see that coming. But NFC West, NFC best. Now I think we have the Rams going up against the Bears. This is a bit of an interesting matchup, and I know, Ray, this is maybe rubbing some salt in the wound. But the Bears overcame an 18-point deficit to defeat the Packers and earn the right to play the Rams. The Rams, they didn't come out of this wild card round unscathed either. They just barely squeaked by the Panthers, and the Panthers were a lot stronger than we thought.
Because they're playing the Bears now, they barely squeaked by. I see what you did there.
But so the Panthers, they put up one heck of a fight against the Rams, and it took everything the Rams had to put the Panthers away. Sorry. So now they're going to face a Bears team that has faced adversity in the wild card round. They are no strangers to adversity now. Guys, how do we think the Bears and Rams match up against each other?
Well, I got to say, I'm going to say the same thing I did before. It is the Bears' game to lose. Clearly, they showed against Green Bay that when they put it together, they can put points on the board, they can defend. They're all-around great football team. And it just takes those pieces coming together and them actually showing up. Also, as they did with Green Bay, making adjustments, although, those adjustments waited till halftime to happen, they still made them. And, contrary to what Green Bay was able to do, they were able to adjust. They were able to change their gameplay both offensively and defensively and show that they were meant to be there. So I really think that if they can do the same, have that same adaptability, that they're, like I said, it's their game to lose.
It's interesting you put it that way, Fred. And the more you make your case, the less issue I have with it. Like whenever we were doing the live stream for the Packers and Bears game, you had asked me not only while we were live streaming, but also when we were on break, like, what do the Bears have to do to win? And I said, at least against the Packers, you take away Christian Watson, and you take away, oh my God, I just blanked, 87, Romeo Dobbs. You take away those two guys, you play cover 2, and basically you dare the Packers to run the ball on you. That's exactly what they did.
Right.
And they were successful in it, and they were able to get stops, and they put their offense in a position to win. One thing that I found interesting, I don't know if you guys saw it, but I was watching an analysis of that 4th and 8 play. That was the critical possession that really was the tide turner of that game. Caleb Williams had a wide open tight end on the right flat. I don't know if you guys saw that. I had to look at the film after that. Caleb Williams made his life a lot harder. Now, granted, he rolled to his left. He threw that ball in the air, which, first of all, is just super impressive. Dropped it over 3 defenders into a bucket for a wide receiver. But he had his tight end, Loveland, in the right flat, wide open, which could have gone for an easy 20 yards, which would have been a much easier throw. But more than likely, Loveland was just there as part of the scheme, but not as part of the progression. But he had Loveland wide open. If he had just looked right, he wouldn't have had to roll to his left and try to make a much more difficult throw.
Which, I mean, that can also play into the weaknesses that the Bears have. If Williams' vision across the field is not that great, and the Rams are able to put more pressure on the secondary and, keep those lanes closed, then it might become more difficult for Williams.
I think a lot of people are underestimating what the Panthers have accomplished this season, because you got to realize this is a Panthers team that went in and said, hey, we already beat these guys once. Let's go in here and do it again. And they almost pulled it off a second time. So they already had the blueprint to beating them. They turned the ball over. The Panthers shot themselves in the foot with their own mistakes, and that's ultimately their demise in that game. Otherwise, we could be looking at how is an 8-9 team winning the wild card against what we thought was the best offense in the NFL.
Right.
Outside of that, the Rams have been dominant against any other team. They have shown they can take care of business, and the Bears have been a second half, not even a second half team, a fourth quarter team. They're not going to be able to do that against Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, and the Rams. They get behind early, they ain't catching back up, in my opinion, because that defensive front for the Rams is pretty tough, too. A lot better than Green Bay, as much as it pains me to say it. So I think the Bears either need to actually complete their read, or Williams needs to complete his reads and actually complete the passes better, or if they fall behind early, they ain't coming back.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. I do think, though, that the Bears can learn a lot from the Panthers in the wild card round. Now, obviously, the Rams know that the Bears are going to be watching that film, so they're going to be kind of in the back of their head thinking about that. But I think a lot of what the Panthers did was basically split the field into 2 halves and force the Rams to defend one half of the field and vacate the other half, and that's where the Panthers were able to find some success. Now, obviously, the Bears are a much better team than the Panthers. I think they could probably replicate that. But like you said, Ray, I think after the Rams almost had a scare in the wild card round, they're going to be looking out for that kind of strategy and that kind of scheme.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's going to be an NFC West NFC Championship, if you will. It's going to be the NFC West Championship round 2, if you ask me.
It'll definitely be interesting to see, and I think we all kind of have our positions on everything there.
Now, let's hop over to the AFC quick. We have 2 teams. Now, they're not playing each other yet, but we have 2 teams that really none of us, other than myself with the Broncos, really saw coming. We have the Patriots that are the number 1 seed, the Broncos that are the number 2 seed. I mean, really, none of us predicted that was going to be the case going into the season, but these teams have shown up and shown out. They're going to be having a tough matchup. The Bills are going to be coming into town, and it's not going to be an easy divisional round for the AFC, but it's definitely going to be an intriguing one.
Now, aren't there a couple of injuries currently with the Patriots, if I remember correctly?
Not that I'm recalling, but I'll start doing some research.
If you can look that up. I thought there was a couple key players that are injured or were at least on the bubble of being able to come back and play. So,
we'd have to see.
That would make a big change,
We'd have to see. Now, the Patriots, they're going to be playing the Texans.
Oh,
and the picked up on the second.
Christian Gonzalez from the New England Patriots, their star cornerback and one of the key pieces of their defense, is still in concussion protocol.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so
that's a big loss.
Definitely could make a difference. I'm sorry I couldn't remember names, but I remember reading about that, and I think at this point in the season, guys have bruised and battered themselves all season long. Your body is tired, your body's worn out, and this is the time of the year where everyone's at risk of injury, and at any given moment that could completely flip a coin for a team. So if the rosters hold out and injuries are kept to a minimum, then I think the Patriots definitely have a good solid team, and like you said, I picked the Broncos early on, but it was simply I gave the overseas game the pick because the Broncos were the better known name, just like the Steelers were the week before, and I went with that instinct. But they have shown that they can give themselves a good showing this year. So
yeah, and I think the Patriots, they're going to have they're going to have a tough matchup. They're not going to be facing a bunch of slouches. The Texans, I've not been high on the Texans, and I'm going to eat crow. The Texans, and yep, Ray saying that he's been high on them, and he has. The Texans through the second half of the season have really started playing well. Now their record doesn't show played, but man, if anybody's going to knock off the Patriots, I think it's going to be the Texans.
It's going to be that defense, yeah.
I know the Patriots have been chomping at the bit to no longer be the we used to have a team kind of team, because their dominance was there for such a long time that it feels like they have something to prove this season, and they finally have the pieces to be able to do that. So I think there's definitely going to be some pressure there on themselves, and whether that pans out to be, a game full of heart and a lot of points on the board, or if that pressure they kind of crumble under is going to tell us, what that Patriots team is really made of.
Now let's go to the other matchup. Excuse me. We have the Bills and the Broncos. The Bills took care of business against the Jaguars. The Jaguars put up a good fight. If you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, you have to be disappointed, but you have to feel good about the future of your team. But the Bills, their road to the Super Bowl, their road to Super Bowl 60 is not going to be easy.
No.
If they want to get to the Super Bowl, they have to go through the Broncos. And if the Patriots take care of business against the Texans, they're going to have to go up against the Patriots. That is a tough gauntlet. And even if they have to play the Texans, that's going to be
tough. Yeah.
If you're the Bills, you're thinking, if we want to get to the Super Bowl, we just have to take it one play at a time. Because if we start thinking about big picture, we're going to fall apart. Because that's what's kind of been their Achilles heel in the past. Now they don't have to deal with the Chiefs. This is their opportunity.
Right.
But boy, howdy, did they draw a pretty rough path to Super Bowl 60.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Did you guys get the press conference for Lee and Cohen post-game right after they had lost to the Bills? Did anybody catch the reporter? I'm going to play this for you here. I want you to listen to this. This is one of the most heartfelt reporting moments I have heard of in recent day. This reporter's getting a lot of backlash for it too, which I think is kind of out of line, but listen to this. Tell me what you think.
Lynn Jones, Jacksonville Free Press News. I just want to tell you congratulations on your success, young man. You hold your head up, all right? You guys have had a most magnificent season. You did a great job out there today. So you just hold your head up, okay? And ladies and gentlemen, Duval, you the one, all right? You keep it going. We got another season, okay? Take care and much continued success to you and the entire team.
Thank you, ma'am.
How you doing today, Lynn?
Now, how many times do you hear a reporter go in and say that right after their team loses a playoff game like that? Like, that's a lot of support for that coach going into the next season right there as it is.
Yeah.
Right. Doesn't happen in Philadelphia. That doesn't happen.
Well, Philly's different. Everybody hates everybody out in Philadelphia. That's different.
Everybody hates us and we don't care.
But, yeah, I think this is Buffalo's game to lose, if I'm being honest. I don't have – the Broncos have been proving me wrong all year. I will openly admit that. I didn't expect a lot from them. But at the same time, like you said, if this is Buffalo's window, it's either do it now or your window's closing fast.
Yeah.
And,
I really
and the other question is, there's still a lot of football left. We're up to 9 now. Are either one of the coaches currently kind of in limbo in Denver or in Buffalo?
I don't think Sean Payton's in limbo. If anything, it'd be the other way around in Buffalo.
Yeah, I don't see Sean Payton being on the hot seat, especially after last season where they just drafted Bo Nix and they just barely missed out on the playoffs. And then now they're the number, 1 seed now? I'm sorry, the number 1 seed. So now Sean Payton's fine. Now I will say this. I agree with Ray that if for whatever reason Buffalo gets bounced, Sean McDermott better get his resume polished because he's been to the playoffs, 5 out of the last 6 seasons, and has come within sniffing distance of the Super Bowl at least twice. So if you're going to go to the Super Bowl, the time's now. But again, you drew a really tough path. So if you're going to take care of business, do it now. If you want to keep – I mean, I'm not saying that he would get fired or lose his job, but there would be at least an argument to be made in Buffalo that if you don't get it now, what about all these other opportunities that you had? Sure, you drew a tough field this year, but you didn't have the Chiefs. You didn't have the Ravens. This was your year, and you still came up short in the divisional round.
Right. So that could be potentially number 10, depending on the outcome.
It really could. And this is 1 year, and I heard I feel like it was, oh my goodness, I don't know if it was Pat McAfee or who said it, but this year isn't really the year where you have these hot button big name head coaches or guys looking to become head coaches. Sure, you got John Harbaugh, but this isn't the year like last season where you had these hot names like Ben Johnson coming out that are looking to become head coaches. So if you're looking for a head coach, you have to be very selective, and pretty much it's either John Harbaugh and everybody else. So is this really the year where if you're a general manager or a team owner, is this really the year, even if you got a guy on the hot seat, is this really the year that you want to try and find your next head coach, or do you might maybe want to sit back a little bit and wait to see how things shake out next season?
Well, I personally think that I don't know if we're ready to transition into it yet.
Let's do it.
But I personally think that the fight for head coach right now is not as glowingly awesome as what a lot of people want it to be. If you look at Harbaugh, yes, right now there are rumors that he's got a big contract offer with the Giants, and that the Giants are doing everything they can to seal the deal. However, that happened yesterday, and the Harbaugh met with Dart. He had a chat there and still chose to not forego his meeting with Tennessee. He still got on the plane at Teterboro Airport and left at midnight and went home to have yet another interview. And even though the Giants are waving a lot of money around, they're waving a nice, young, healthy quarterback. The difficulty is even though the name is there, 18 years he's coached in the NFL, but what has he personally actually produced? He got one championship ring with a team that was already stacked before he got there. And since then, the team has done what? So now, after 18 years, they're giving him the boot for a reason. So my question is, with all this hype about Harbaugh, is it really what the Giants need to have? Yes, he might come in and straighten the ship a little bit, but is he the piece that's going to make it a championship team, or are the pieces already there, and anyone that can bring unity and a focus to both the offense and defense gonna come up with at least a playoff team next year?
So for me, the more like we're kind of sitting here and talking about it, I'm thinking, if I'm John Harbaugh, not only am I looking to see like what the roster is that would be there around me, I also need to think about the front office.
Yes.
Like, and I'm not just saying this because I'm an Eagles fan and I don't like the Giants because I'm an Eagles fan. I'm just saying this from an objective place. Joe Schoen as a GM, if I'm John Harbaugh, I have to think, is Joe Schoen really going to give me the pieces to build a roster that's going to set me up for success, to coach the best that I can coach and put the best product on the field? If I'm John Harbaugh, the answer to that question is, in the last 2 or 3 seasons, no. Sure, you drafted Jackson Dart. Yes, you drafted Malik Neighbors. Yeah, you drafted Abdul Carter, who may or may not be a bust, depending on how he goes. Now, granted, he's only been in the NFL for 1 year, but be that as it may. You got, oh, goodness, I blank out running back that we all loved.
Mm-hmm.
Scatterboo, thank you. So you got the pieces, so sure, but even a blind squirrel can find a nut once in a while, and even a dead clock is right twice a day.
And you, as you alluded to, the GM for the Giants has more say in the structure of the team and its execution than most other GMs in the NFL. And that
Philadelphia of all places.
Right. And that grip that he has, it was already discussed that is one big sticking point for Harbaugh, because Harbaugh was essentially given the keys to the castle to do what he wanted to with the team. So now in the Giants' defense, do you want to give the guy who has gone 16 years with no championship the keys to the castle to revamp what you've built, and it may or may not work?
See, for me, I keep looking at it from John Harbaugh's perspective, and I keep going back to the last 2 seasons. You had Saquon Barkley there. Now, granted, you didn't have an offensive line to actually give him the ability to produce, but you had Saquon Barkley, and you said, no thanks, but no thanks.
Right.
You had Daniel Jones, and you wasted him.
Yep.
He was having a career year this season. If he hadn't gotten hurt, I strongly believe the Colts will be the number 1 seed in the playoffs right now. I strongly believe that. You take Daniel Jones out of New York and you put him in Indianapolis, and he's almost the best quarterback in the league.
Yep.
So you have to look at this as John Harbaugh and say, is it the coach or is it the front office? And if I come here, is this front office, and you guys don't see it, I'm like, is this front office going to handicap me at the knees?
Right.
So I can understand why John Harbaugh wants to take other interviews in the field for front offices, because I'll be honest, if I were a head coach interviewing, as long as Joe Shane is the GM of the Giants, I wouldn't go near him.
And see, that's the difficulty. If the Giants want to sign him, there's going to have to be a discussion on a little give and take there. He's got to be able to have some say more than what the previous coaches have had. And honestly, even Nabel told John Harbaugh, you'd be great at the Giants, with the caveat that you need to have more say than what I had. And that may have been the reason why Nabel didn't do so well at the Giants. It's more evident now that we're seeing the coaches who are dragging their feet about it, and obviously Nabel, having broken ties, he's now openly talking about it. So we have the pieces. If we got Scattaboo, we have Dart, and we have the defense that we are still holding on to. Most of the guys are coming back. So we have the pieces, but is Harbaugh going to be the actual glue that puts it back together? Or I'm not totally convinced. I'll just put it that way.
I would say that I know I'm beating a dead horse here. I just keep going back to the front office. Like, the ownership is what the ownership is. Like, that's not going to change anytime soon.
Right.
But I do think that at least for the Giants, and I don't know if it's almost like a curse of New York, because the Jets are the same way. They have good ownership, but their front office sucks. So, like, it's almost like the front office for the Giants is radioactive. And if you're not going in there fully protected, you're setting yourself up for failure. And John Harbaugh is not dumb.
Right.
Not dumb, which is why he's taking other interviews. Because even he knows you can have the best roster on the football field that you can possibly have, given the other 31 teams and the parity that is the NFL. But if you don't have a front office that is either willing to support you, or an ownership team or individual that is willing to say, hey, here's the keys to the Ferrari, we trust you,
right,
go ahead, drive. Which is not the case in New York with the Giants. You at least got to do yourself a justice and at least talk to other teams.
Yeah, it's a tough pull. It is a very tough pull. And throwing out as much money as they're throwing out, allegedly at him, and the perks that they're supposedly giving. I'll be honest, I really think it would be contingent upon him being able to bring at least someone else with him on staff that he's familiar with, that he knows, that he works well with, and then having the the GM be able to, loosen the reins a little bit and let him do what he do.
Well, that's to be determined.
Yeah.
Now, Fred, without drawing this out too much, because we do have 2 other autopsies to conduct. What obviously injuries were a factor for the Giants. They were starting to figure it out in like the early to mid part of the year. For me, like the quintessential Giants performance, as much as I hate to say this, was against Philadelphia in New York.
Yep.
Like that was their best performance of the season, and that shows you what their ceiling is.
Right.
But then you saw injuries wipe them out.
Right. Well, see,
and you can't not you can't not have injuries. You can't prevent injuries. You can do your best to prevent injuries, but injuries happen. But looking at this past season, injuries aside, what do you think is what prevented the Giants from being more successful? And what do you think the Giants need, at least from a roster perspective, to at least be competitive in the NFC East? Because honestly, right now, the more I think about it, I still think it's a 2-horse race: Philadelphia and Dallas.
Well, I'll go back to the beginning. The fact that Russell Wilson was in preseason camp, his very existence got Nabel, kind of foaming at the mouth. And to start him over Dart was, in my opinion, silly in game 1. It was unforgivable in game 2. So from the beginning of the season, they were steering the ship blindly, and I can't help but think, with what Nabel is throwing out now, and his discussions about the front office, it almost feels like Nabel was in support of Dart from the beginning, and the front office said, "We bought Wilson, we're playing Wilson." And for name's sake, they kept him there the second week, even though he should not have been out there.
And honestly, not to interrupt, but honestly, they would have been better served. And hi, Miles. They would have been better served.
We're having troubles with bedtime at my house. If you can't.
Nice.
Sorry for being distracted.
Say less. But honestly, they would have been better served letting Wilson go, or not even bring him into the building, because Jameis Winston actually was playing pretty damn well. Like, he was playing really well. Right. Like, I go back to when they inserted Jameis Winston against the Cowboys, and he just threw a 60-yard dart and about won the damn game if it hadn't been for the Giants secondary that then lost said game.
That is the plight of us Giants fans. We see glimmers of greatness, and those glimmers of greatness, no matter who they are, those glimmers of greatness, they either leave the team and then the greatness comes out, or they don't have the opportunities to make that greatness develop. So I agree. I think Russell Wilson being on the roster, is very present, is what kind of set the ball rolling in the wrong direction for the Giants this season. And then whether it was the front office or whether it was Nabel, I don't know. But whoever decided to go against all capability of common sense to not play Dart or not start Dart in the second game was silly. You already threw away the first game. Why throw away the second game? And they did. And once that ball is rolling and you're down 2 games in the season, that momentum's not there. then you've already told Dart you don't trust him. And then once you give him the ball and he performs well, and they say, "Oh, you're the greatest," we have all of our faith in you. It's, well, do you really? Because you could have played me 2 weeks ago.
I have a different take in that, but being the Packers fan I am, letting your rookie quarterback learn the playbook, learn the system. I probably went with Winston over Wilson as your starter. Maybe let Dart learn from Winston, kind of get a couple games under his belt. Because like you said, Winston was out there slinging the ball. I feel like if they would have given Dart a chance to learn the playbook, which he had his couple games before he came in, and he looked great. But that's just me. I'm more of a let your quarterback sit a year, learn the system, and throw him in the second year.
If you remember, when Jackson Dart was still in college, he was not only a shining star there, but he was already, according to some interviews that I heard, Dart was already not only studying playbooks across the whole NFL, but has a quarterback's mind, like a Manning, or a mind that not only can memorize plays well, but has that Rolodex on speed dial, so to speak. Yeah. He proved that whenever he was in college, and that was one of the big selling points for him was his capability to adapt to a playbook and execute, the way he obviously turned out being able to. But like I said, I think I understand where you're coming from with the, letting a player develop and slowly be introduced into a team. But I also think when Wilson was not performing in the first game, like I can excuse the first game, but when you had Dart waiting in the wings and you said to Dart, I don't care what you said to Russell Wilson. I mean, you could have said, we believe in you, you can hop back on that horse and get us game 2. But you're also saying something to the other person at the same time. So I feel like at that point, what they were saying to Dart was, we don't trust you yet. You're not getting the ball. We're going to give it to the namesake as opposed to the talent.
So moving forward, now that the 2025-2026 season is concluded for the Giants, when I look at their roster, I think, what does this team need? And I'm looking at it almost with, obviously, only with the Philadelphia mind in me. You build through the trenches. Like, whenever I think about the New York Giants, I can't name a single guy on their offensive line. So for me, I'm thinking if the Giants are going to go into this draft, they have to build their interior of their offensive and defensive lines. But Fred, you know this team better than either myself or Ray does. Going into this draft in, I believe, April, what do you think the Giants need to target in the draft? And then free agency, depending on what all shakes down.
Right.
Do you think this team, I mean, let's just focus on the draft. Free agency we'll get to once we have a better picture of what there is. But what do you think this team needs in the draft to at least set themselves up to have a little bit better success?
Well, the gaps that, at least so far, that we know are not returning. There's 2 safety positions that need to be filled, and that secondary is a big deal. To be able to have some confidence and some ability to know that on a play that's a little bit more, open air, they're playing zone, whatever, that you have some ability to breathe there. And right now, having to pull from, maybe put someone from a different position there, or, from existing players, I think they would do well to pick someone up there. And then also The offensive line, I believe, has two openings that one player's not returning, and then the other is injury, I believe, for their starting. So obviously the offensive line is where they now have the capability. We're not used to having an offense on the Giants, to be quite honest. So
it's
to
been
be
a
able
while.
to have an offensive line back, we're talking, throwback days to when the offensive line for the Giants was impressive.
Ahmad Bradshaw, Victor
yeah.
Cruz, Mario Manningham.
Listen, I can tell you.
Tell y'all who are watching. I am.
Right. So you throw back to those days, and that's what the powerhouse of the Giants was, including, then you had the defensive line that was incredible. So we now have a defense that, on paper, our defensive line should be doing amazing. I think the play calling, the ability to execute, I think it may be because of not having that confidence in the secondary, and also the weak offensive line is causing Dart to have to rush a little bit more than what he should, causing him to scramble, even though he's capable of scrambling. Having a little bit more time to allow a play to develop will benefit him in the long term immensely. So I really think those two areas are what I think need to be the biggest focus.
So if I were to say, to kind of wrap all that up for the Giants, and then we'll move on to the Packers. If you're a Giants fan going into the draft in April, you would be happy with offensive line, defensive line, safety, and maybe a tight end and a wide receiver too?
Yeah, I mean, if all the candies in the box were your favorite, then yeah, absolutely. But settling, if we had to settle for any one of those positions, I think the wide receiver is the least necessary with what we have coming back offensively. I think having someone that's enough of a decoy would be good, but not necessarily that it's going to be the pivotal star of the team that we need to fill that spot. So yeah.
Well, it's going to be an interesting offseason for the New York Football Giants. But now let's turn up north to the frozen tundra. Ray, the three for that and Bears, you are not a happy man. You and I have been talking constantly about the Packers. Now, they have decided to retain Matt LaFleur. I know you are very much against keeping Matt LaFleur. You wanted to maybe even go for the Packers. You were very much even into the let's get into the John Harbaugh sweepstakes. But give me your autopsy of the 2025-2026 Green Bay Packers.
So, I have 2 points I'm going to make to this, but then I kind of have a hot take that I would like to see Green Bay do.
Frozen take, not a hot take, a frozen take. This is frozen take.
You got me. But this is going to be debatable. I know a lot of fellow Packer fans are not going to like my opinion on this, but my opinions have been wonky all year. You guys have been harassing me for my wonky predictions all year. So, I mean, why not keep going with the trend, right? And so the first thing I want to see Green Bay work on this season, because quite frankly, you guys heard me say it in the watch party, PTSD's kicking in. All they were doing is punting the damn ball, and PTSD kicked in. First thing Green Bay needs to work on is special teams. You left 7 points off the board in a 4-point loss. Right there's the win. Your kicker blew the game for you. 7 freaking points left off the goddamn board.
You know, that takes me back to all the TikTok and YouTube clips of like high school girls with an NFL kicker, and they're able to kick that 30-yard field goal. And yeah.
The sad part is we had a substitute teacher kicking for us this year that kicked better than McManus did. That is the sad part of this, and they kept the other. Special teams needs to be treated like a starting unit. Like it needs to become a priority in Green Bay. Clearly, they've had no issue putting the special teams off. You have the special teams blunder against Seattle. You have the block punt against the San Francisco 49ers. And now you have the 7 missed points and the 4-point loss against the biggest collapse in Green Bay history against your biggest rival in Chicago.
But not only that, right? When we were having that watch party, there was one special teams play that honestly was also a factor in the Packers losing, and that was a punt return for nearly 50 yards that gave the Bears possession. It could have had them pinned back at their own 20, but the Bears return it to the Packers 35-yard line, gave them a shortened field, and they ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive. Like you said, you have to treat the special teams like a starting unit that not only can kick, punts, and kickoffs and field goals, but can also tackle.
And like I said, as soon as the second half started, when the minute the drive started stalling out, you guys heard me say, "Oh no, it's happening again. Oh no, it's happening again." At one point, Fred looked at me. He's like, "Dude, you're up 18 points. You're fine." I was like, "No, we're not, Fred. We're not fine. I've been down this road before. I've seen this story and how it ends."
See, watching the game with Ray live, I have to let all the viewers know here. Watching live with Ray, you can feel the stress and the tension coming off of him. Like there's this aura about him, and it's not just the glow of his bald head, but
no,
it's this aura of anxiety.
Yes, and not to make light of it or anything, but Green Bay definitely with their special teams. I think the biggest hurdle is getting all the wheelchairs off the field.
No, here we go.
I mean,
oh man.
To be objective, though, right? So let's just say McManus. Let's just make him the scapegoat. But who else do you get? Justin Tucker? Or if the Eagles say, you know what, Jake Elliott, screw you, we're done because I have a bone to pick with Mr. Elliott. Do you get Jake Elliott? Like, what do you do?
Bring back the substitute teacher and then bring somebody in for some competition because, God forbid, that guy made kicks. So, I mean, put a competition out there. Quit making it just we have our guy. Bring in
pick
two
a random
people,
person from the stands.
Yeah, at this point, just give us somebody.
Make it a joke throughout the season that at every halftime in Green Bay,
if
you have someone trying to kick a field goal. And if they make it, they stay till the next week to compete as to who can kick it the furthest.
Yeah.
And by the end of the season, you got somebody you can sign for the postseason if you make it.
So, I mean, there's still options I'm looking at out there at kicker, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, the guy that was supposed to be a substitute teacher from Ohio was like, yeah, I tried out for the NFL. It didn't work out. Green Bay gave me a call, and I tried it. Bring him back. He did his job. He did great. Give him a chance to compete. Bring in somebody else to compete with him that you think could be the next guy. And right there, you have a kicking competition. You have two guys that could do the job. And like I said, bring in a special teams coordinator that's actually going to help get the special teams in line to get the job done instead of having these blunders every single year that Green Bay continues to have.
Well, in Green Bay's defense, though, too, what have we said all season long?
Special teams
has made or broke so many teams this year and so many matchups that we thought were going to be solid, and obviously the betting markets had them, being no-brainer games, and next thing you know, special teams changes everything. So
Yep.
I do agree with you, Ray. The special team weight is got to be heavy on your shoulders.
Yeah, it's been a haunting Green Bay trauma, if you will, because it's something that has never been fixed, never been corrected. This goes all the way back to post Aaron Rodgers' first Super Bowl. Like, it's been nothing but special teams has screwed Green Bay. That is all it has been.
Now, Ray, the Packers did make a splash in the offseason. They traded for Micah Parsons, linebacker, edge rusher. They got him from Dallas. They gave up a nose tackle. And he was doing really surprisingly well. I wasn't super high on him, but he did a very good job until he got hurt. So what do you think the Packers defense needs to do? Parsons for like money. But what do you think that the Packers defense needs to do better? Because yes, their defense was a roller coaster, but that 18-point deficit in the postseason was the biggest postseason comeback they've allowed in their entire history. And the Packers have been around in the NFL since pretty much the NFL was even like invented.
Just keep digging that hole deeper for me. I appreciate.
Since Ray lost his hair.
Yeah. But as far as defense goes, I like Jeff Hafley as our defense coordinator. I think he's done a great job, especially with Micah Parsons, and let everybody get healthy. Let everybody have another year in his system. I think we'll be all right next year. I'm not as much worried too much about the defense. If anything, maybe bring in another corner, maybe bring in some defensive linemen to help out. But other than that, I feel like we have a pretty solid defensive core and a defense coordinator that could take us somewhere next year.
Now, that said, though, Ray, when we were having our watch party and we were saying, like, what do the Packers need to do to continue to win, you said defensively, keep doing what you're doing. And then I countered by saying, and I've said this, I don't know how many times, if you're the Bears, eliminate Christian Watson and eliminate Romeo Doubs. But the Packers, they didn't do that. They just kind of they did what it strikes me how similar the Packers and the Eagles have been this year. Instead of playing to win, they play to not lose.
You can ask Fred. Him and I stuck around for a little bit afterward. We listened to the post-game conference because you even heard me before you left. I want to hear the answers for that post-game because it was ridiculous how that game ended in Green Bay. And LaFleur came out blatantly and said, we didn't change anything in the second half. The Bears just brought more pressure. You need to make adjustments. That is part of the game of football. You need to adjust as the game goes on. You can't just watch another team make adjustments and go, well, we'll figure it out as we go. Hopefully it works. No, you make adjustments, you change what you're doing, and you attack that way. They played to deserve the win, and they lost because they didn't play aggressive, which will lead to my next point after Fred gives his opinion.
The one telltale sign of that was, during the watch party, I was saying about the Bears getting stuffed every time they were trying to run it up the middle. And it seemed as though Green Bay was still holding to that paradigm where the next play they're going to try and run it up the middle. And they kept tight on their defense on the line, and it gave the Bears the ability to run routes, to be able to, do little toss plays that got them yards that with, a couple minor adjustments on the defensive line would have kept that from happening.
And like we said in the watch party, Fred, like when you were like you said, you were questioning like why do the Bears keep doing this when you're getting minimal gains and the Packers are stopping this? And I don't know how many times the Bears kept doing this, I looked at you and said, the reason why they're doing this, they're sucking the linebackers closer into the box. That's why the Bears were doing it, because they knew, as Ray alluded to, the Packers didn't make adjustments.
Right.
The linebackers didn't stay in place. And Ray knows this about as well as any of us do, that on the defensive side of the ball, if a team keeps running up the middle, even if you're not getting yards, it's to suck your linebackers in to then create behind them.
Right.
And the Packers, they fell for the bait.
Yeah.
I put a lot of blame on that offense, though, in the second half because you could have easily at least drove it down the field. If the kicker would have made his field goals, if he gotten to field goal range, kick another couple field goals, that game's a completely different game. The offense collapsing the way it did in the second half is ultimately the reason we lost that game. I still applaud our defense, how great they played in that game, how well they finished the game out. Yeah, the Bears came back and got a couple points, but who's ultimately going to get shut out other than the Chargers in the playoffs? But that's my dig at the Chargers. But anyway, moving on to my second point for the Green Bay Packers here. What I want to see from them next season is, at this point, you've proven when the foot is on the gas pedal, you're fine on offense. So at this point, it needs to be all gas, no brakes. I'm tired of this. We're playing to hold the lead. You need to put your foot on that gas pedal and never let it off. I don't care if we're up by 10. I don't care if we're up by 20. You keep scoring points. You keep doing what you got to do because, quite frankly, you playing conservative has lost us how many games this year, and it needs to stop.
And, Ray, again, like – it's almost like we're talking about the same football team because the Eagles have done the same thing. They've played to not lose, and they did that against the Bears. They played to not lose. When you and I were doing our live stream of the Eagles and the Packers game, in the first half you said, hey, when they play up-tempo, the Eagles can't keep up. And you said, I want to see that in the second half. They didn't do a single drive with anything up-tempo until the Eagles mismanaged the clock in the last 2.5 minutes.
Yep. That's the way it's been all year. I've said that all year. Move the ball, get moving, get back on the line, punch them in the mouth, get back out there and do it again. But for some odd reason, they just haven't been doing that. And but again, this goes into my third point, which is kind of like my frozen take or hot take, however you want to look at it. But Fred, if you have something to say about my last point, I'll let you dive into that before I go to my last point with Green Bay here.
No, I think I agree that the momentum was on their side. They were being aggressive, but even still, that the aggression without adaptation is still just blind aggression. And I've dealt with a lot of people, from a humanity standpoint, that once someone crosses over from the line of controllable anger to rage, your mind turns off, and making adjustments doesn't happen. You go into kind of an autopilot, and you're reactionary without any planning. So preparation for being reactionary is necessary. I really don't think that the coaching staff for Green Bay had the capability of adapting to what the Bears were doing, because all they knew was, well, it worked last half, and in that scramble, there was no, okay, we adjust just like we've always adjusted all season.
Yeah.
You can't say that about them. So while I know you have support for your defensive coordinator, I think at the very least some things need to be adjusted, whether it's head coach or defensive coordinator, for the adaptability mid-game, depending on what you're seeing from the opposing team.
You got to realize, though, for me to support our defensive coordinator, look at our defense in past history with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and look what we have now for defense.
Well,
so
absolutely.
This is a shining gold plate for us on Green Bay right now, as far as our
when
defense.
you're holding a piece of tissue paper and telling the other team stop.
That's basically what our defense used to be. Exactly.
Right. It's a lot different than what it is now.
Yeah.
And to the team's credit, they've built a defensive line. They've built excuse me. They've put those parts in place to be able to have that. But you still have to have those parts adjusting and moving the way that they need to. Otherwise, something's going to break. And as soon as they break, the other team that is adjusting, as we saw, will find those gaps and will exploit them.
So, Ray, what's your third point here. I'm really wanting to know what this one is, because I feel like this is going to be the one where the shoe really drops.
I see.
It will be, and I don't. Again, I'm going to start this by saying I don't foresee Green Bay doing this. But in my mind, it would be a great move for one, draft capital, because you just traded for Micah Parsons. You don't have a first-round draft pick till 2028 now. On top of that, you could bring in some other depth pieces, if you will, if you do this. Get rid of Josh Jacobs. Trade him out. Because quite frankly, when you watch Green Bay do their up-tempo package, Emmanuel Wilson has done great as another running back for the Green Bay offense. If you run that up-tempo offense, we don't need a number one guy. We don't need a guy that's going to power through the offensive line, get 4 yards carry. We just need a guy that's going to go out there, be a distraction, catch pass we need to, occasionally get a draw, maybe take a run up the middle if we need to, and Wilson is that guy. He can do just fine filling that slot. You get rid of Jacobs, you trade him to a team that needs a top running back in the NFL, get some draft capital for it, get some key pieces to hopefully go with your defense. You're back in business going into next season. You have the draft that helps you, and your offense and your defense can get clicking. Make the up-tempo work. You're not paying the running back tax. It gives you more cap space to look for free agents and on top of that, too.
So what you're saying is fully embrace your NASCAR package at the expense of Josh Jacobs.
100%. That's where I'm at with it, because they can run just fine without Jacobs in that package.
So thinking back to the playoff game with the Bears, and we talked about this during the live stream, when they were running their NASCAR package, they never had Josh Jacobs on the field, not even a single snap. And I asked you, why wouldn't you have objectively your best running back on the field for your NASCAR package just to suck in those linebackers? And you said, why would I? Whenever I have this other guy that's faster, frankly, that can run the NASCAR package better than Josh Jacobs, who's more of a battering ram.
It's not that Jacobs is a bad running back. I'm not trying to say that I don't want him because he sucks. He is an excellent running back. I think he is one of the better running backs in the NFL. He is just more of a power back that if Green Bay goes up-tempo, will not fit our scheme and is not going to help us as much as what we think he is going to. But the reason I don't think Green Bay is going to do it is because Jacobs loves being in Green Bay and loves LaFleur as much as Green Bay loves having him. And they feed him the ball a lot. He had how many straight games with a touchdown? I think it was, 17 or 18 straight games with a touchdown?
Yep.
I don't foresee Green Bay being that keen to parting ways with Jacobs, but I see a ton of upside into it if you go with the up-tempo package on offense and you bring in key pieces and get some draft capital knowing what you gave up for Parsons.
So let's just say, Ray, that the Packers don't do that. And basically your first draft pick is a second-round draft pick. Looking at the Packers roster going into the draft in April, what do you see the Packers needing? If you could have your way, what would you say the Packers need in the April draft to set themselves up for better success to not get bounced in the divisional round next year?
As far as the draft goes, I don't think we're going to get a number one receiver out of the draft this year. So I kind of like our receivers now. I said that during the game as it is. I kind of like where we're at with our offense right now. And defense, I think, is pretty well set right now, too. I think if you want to be nitpicky as far as Green Bay's roster, bring in some defensive line help, bring in a corner, try to get another corner piece if you can, and maybe get some offensive line depth. You get those three right there, I think Green Bay is going to be sitting pretty well going into next season.
And honestly, like you mentioned, their wide receiving core is good. Like Matthew Golden, he's a rookie last year. Yeah. You had Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. So you have a good receiving core. And the only reason why I said to eliminate Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs in the playoff game was because they were the ones producing the most yards. Golden, he wasn't really producing anything. And whenever the Packers finally said, Golden is running across the middle wide open, maybe we should hit him, he was actually successful.
And I forget if it was one of you guys or somebody else I talked to, but somebody even said if Green Bay could even just bring in a number one receiver instead of just having those guys in there like Green Bay has, maybe it could be used as like a, hey, they have this guy now, use him as a distraction, get those other guys running different routes, hit more people wide open. I mean, at this point, Jordan Love's done great without a pure number one receiver. He's done how many years without it? He just threw 4 touchdowns in a playoff game without a pure number one receiver. He'll be fine. As far as I support Jordan Love more than a lot of people do. I think he's going to be a great quarterback for us. I had a lot of doubts going into him, but I also had doubts in Aaron Rodgers, and look how he turned out. So
my opinion of that is it, at least for the, our watch party, I thought Golden had more potential than what he was given the opportunity to carry out. And when he did get the ball, he's got a lot of spunk. He's got a lot of capability, and I think spreading the ball out more and allowing him to have, at least an equal partnership among the receivers, I think would be excellent. In a help for your offense and offer a bit more adaptability again.
Yeah, but you look at Green Bay's receiving options. You got Kraft. You got Musgrave at tight end. You look at receivers. You got Watson. You got Dobbs. You got Wicks. You have Golden. They have 6 different options that Love can dump the ball to. Plus, to mention, I was just talking about Emmanuel Wilson when they run the up-tempo pack. You have 7 guys you can rely on at receiver, essentially, or whatever you want to call them to catch the ball. I have faith in Green Bay's passing game next year. It's just the problem is they need to use it, plain and simple. They didn't use it a whole lot. They kept trying to force feed Jacobs and run the ball. We need to step back from the run heavy, or I don't want to say run heavy, but we need to step back from running the ball and go back to the way Green Bay used to play football, and that's we're going to pass it, and then we'll run it once you finally back off and respect the pass.
Well, interesting take. Now, I know I'm springing this on you guys. Fred, I polished off my glass of UFO. It was delicious. It was wonderful.
Does that mean an UFO break?
Can we do an UFO break?
We absolutely can do an UFO break.
Nice.
This podcast and Frozen Takes is brought to you by
Uncle UFO's Old Grey Whiskey. Now that's a name that tickles the tongue. A stellar ale, brewed for those who dare to dream and drink. This ain't your average hooch. It's got a kick like a mule and a flavor that'll make you howl. Pour it in a glass and watch it shimmer like the night sky. Who knew whiskey could be so pretty? But hold on, does it taste as good as it looks? One sip, and I'm ready to launch into orbit. It's smooth, with a hint of mischief so you can embrace your natural instincts, like a man. So if you're looking for a drink to help you embrace the rugged and experience the impossible, Uncle UFO's got your back. Grab a bottle of Uncle UFO's Old Grey Whiskey, and let's toast to the cosmos.
Toast to the cosmos.
Let's toast to the cosmos. Cheers.
Cheers, my empty glass. All right. Now that I am sufficiently soft, I think I am capable enough to dissect the Eagles of Philadelphia.
Hey, I went through more pain than you did. So, I mean, you didn't lose to a bitter rival in the worst loss ever in NFL history. So I don't want to hear about pain. You just go through your segment. I've already dealt with all of my pain and inner anger. In fact, I still have it after my segment. So I haven't even processed it yet.
So you guys both know that
let's go
going into the season, and all of us we were high on the Eagles because we thought that the success from last year would translate to this year. And it just didn't happen. So the Eagles did let go of Kevin Patullo, their offensive coordinator, but the dude's still in the freaking building. They didn't actually fire him. They demoted him to who knows what. I am not kidding you. That man is still in the NovaCare complex, which just makes me angry.
Oh, that's great. That warms my heart. That's great.
That just makes me all kinds of hopping mad.
That's like the Steelers keeping Tomlin as a scorekeeper.
It just makes me all kinds of mad. I was hoping that they were going to give him a pink. The hell he came from? No, that dude is, and I don't want to say dude. I want to say something else, but I can't. That dude is still in the freaking building, which just riles me up if you can't tell. But as it is, yes, Ray.
So, like, I want to hear your opinion on stream, and I would love to hear Fred's take on this because I pointed this out to you when I saw this earlier in the week, and I think Fred would love to jump in on this. So, the Eagles are now looking for their 5th offensive coordinator in 5 seasons. The funny part about this is 2 of them have been lost to head coaching jobs. 2 of them have been fired. The 2 that have been fired, Sirianni's picked because they were buddies. The other 2 that were hired as head coaches, picked by the GM. So now that you got rid of your OC, who's picking the next OC?
So
look at Fred grinning. He loves this. He loves this.
Trust me, I knew you were going to go there because I've been thinking about this myself. So, as an Eagles fan, let's just look back at Nick Sirianni's history with offensive coordinators. He came on to the Eagles in 2021, 2022. He was calling his own plays, did not do well, handed over playing calling to Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen takes over officially in 2022. They get to the Super Bowl. He then goes to the Colts. He then promotes his internal buddy, Brian Johnson, the fated 2023 season. They go 10-1 and collapse. They fire Brian Johnson. Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie said, "You're not going to hire him. We are." Nick Sirianni says, "Yes, massa." And they bring in Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was handcuffed through the first 4 games of the season running the Nick Sirianni offense. Finally, the players said, "Let us run the Kellen Moore offense." Guess what happened? They rattled off almost a 17-game winning streak to get to Super Bowl 59 and blew the tires off of the reigning Super Bowl champion, the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Kansas City Chiefs still haven't recovered from that loss. Then Kellen Moore gets hired out to be the head coach of the Saints. And yet again, we internal promote Kevin Patullo. Here we are again. So for me as an Eagles fan, I just look at this and I think, okay, if Nick Sirianni is your head coach, but he can't hire a competent staff and has to rely on the front office to do it, then why are you even here? Why are you here? I'm not on the let's fire Nick Sirianni thing yet, but I'm almost there. But if you, seriously, if you as a head coach cannot hire a competent staff, why are you here?
Fred, I would love to hear your take on this because I think this is absolutely hilarious how wound up that got him.
Well, let's hear what you have to say first.
Who, me? I just think it's hilarious. I think it should be up to Howie Roseman. He's done an amazing job up in Philadelphia as far as bringing talent in. And I feel like if you're having a GM, he should have as much say as anybody in hiring the staff.
Well, coming from, the Giants system, where I feel as though the GM should have less input in what's happening, I would say
look at the track record, though. Look at the track record. It speaks for itself.
I mean, I listed it off for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get it. And the frustration of watching your beloved team crumble and knowing the source of it and not being able to do a damn thing about it as a fan is frustrating. We all experience that. And the difficulty is the Eagles have of late been on top more than either of us, but you're still experiencing those pains. And when you did have all the pieces of the puzzle to make things happen, and when people finally listened and let it work like the well-oiled machine that it was, that got you guys the Super Bowl ring, it was not destined to remain that way, because the changes that were made created a whole different puzzle. And,
see, the thing is, it wasn't even really a puzzle. It wasn't even really a puzzle. The offense, like the 2023 offense was maddening, yes, but that offense was even better than this year's offense. And I have the evidence to prove it. The last drive of the season, the Eagles run a high school offense. Nobody's open. A.J. Brown drops a catchable ball because he's just over it. Dallas Goedert bails them out. But now it's 4th down. Season's on the line. And what do they run? 4 verts into what defense?
Cover 4.
And Ray's going to laugh as soon as I say this because he knows what this means. They run 4 verts into a cover 4. Are you freaking kidding me? 4 verts into a cover 4? Are you ridiculous? Are you kidding me here? Like, seriously. 4 verts into a cover 4. Are you, like, seriously?
Oh, man.
On Madden. Your son, Ray, could call a better play on Madden than that. But aside, this Eagles, like, I know you guys are getting a kick out of this, but in all seriousness, here was incredibly predictable. First down was going to be a 3-yard hitch. Second down, run up the middle with Saquon Barkley. Third down, you knew it was going to be 3rd and long, run 4 verts. That was the Eagles' offense all season long. I have maintained since the beginning of the year, and both of these guys can tell you this. I maintain that the biggest mistake the Eagles made in the last offseason was not re-signing Mekhi Becton. And gosh darn it, was I right. Tyler Steen is not Mekhi Becton. Every time, and Fred, you and I have had this conversation before. Every time Saquon Barkley last season ran behind Mekhi Becton, Fred, tell me what happened.
Success.
Damn straight.
Great success.
Damn straight.
And what was the issue with Barkley and at the Giants? There was no offensive line to lead him.
Exactly.
The shining star is not the one guy, and that's what I've kept saying about his time with the Giants was not that he became this amazing star when he went to the Eagles. He was already a star, but the star has to be able to have some way of having a hole or a gap to get through. And then once he breaks out, after he gets those 2 or 3 yards, then turn on the gas, right? But until he gets those 2 or 3 yards, you're not getting anywhere with him. And
the Eagles all season long was their offensive line.
Right.
Cam Jurgens, their center, underperformed and was hurt, beaten up most of the year. Landon Dickerson was in and out most of the year. Tyler Steen, he again, not a Mekhi Becton. Lane Johnson, one of the best, if not the best, left tackle in the NFL, was hurt toward the end of the year. Jordan Mailata didn't play well. So the entire offensive line didn't play well. And that hurt the passing game, which hurt the running game. And it just compounded and compounded and compounded. As we all saw, the Eagles were a team of 2 halves. They would play well offensively in the first half and then fall apart in the second. Or they would play terrible in the first, play great in the second. They couldn't string a whole game together. And the one game that just is the epitome of their season was when they played Dallas in Dallas. They were up 21 points, 28-7, and they lost. They lost because they couldn't score a second half point. Because Ray, just like the Packers, They played not to lose. They didn't keep the foot down, and they played to not lose.
We don't need to circle back to Green Bay. I'm still suffering from last weekend here.
I have to say, I'm gonna give a little throwback here, back to my college days when I was first introduced to March Madness. And I remember going to every place that we could that wouldn't kick us out after we were done with our meal. We'd go to Taco Bell. We would watch on the TVs there. We would go to Chili's and sit there for hours and watch college basketball.
Did you get your baby back, baby back, baby back, baby
I
back?
did get my baby back rib.
Baby back rib.
But the best was the never-ending chip bowls that we would exploit the hell out of because we got the student discount on top of that. So it was like a couple bucks for the
that's a win
for as many chips as you could eat.
Here's the you buy a beer, you order one appetizer, and you just get the chips, and you just nurse that.
Yep.
You nurse that.
It would be like four of us to split. So we would all split an appetizer and then get the chips and then done. It was golden. Yep. But anyway, all that aside, the food aside, watching the competition and the heart that goes through every March Madness, you see the pressure on every team in every player's face. You see it on the court, and they leave everything there from second one until the last second. And what you see too often, I think, in professional sports across the board is they know they're getting a paycheck regardless. So what ends up happening is they play until they're ahead, then they try and hold the lead, because pushing further than that, puts you at risk. You might get injured. You might have, something happen that you couldn't have predicted. And now getting that third touchdown that gets you, 4 possessions ahead that was unnecessary now tears your Achilles, or you pull a hamstring, or whatever it is that's pushing you over that line. So I get that to a degree, but at the same time, it almost feels like the pulse is removed from a team when you are playing to hold your lead rather than playing to win. If you have an opportunity to drive another touchdown in, drive another touchdown in. Like I don't see, I get it when little leaguers have a 10-run rule, so the other team doesn't go home crying and spend the rest of the week, wishing that they got ice cream like the other team. But these are top athletes. These are world-class people.
Saturday.
That what's that?
I still want my ice cream from this past Saturday. I'm still crying over that game.
Whatever. I didn't get mine either. No. But I feel like with professional sports, you lose that heart. They're adults. They know you're going to win or you're going to lose. Any given Sunday, your matchup could be, yay or nay. You could outperform the other team or you could get crushed. But I think the mindset of, oh my gosh, we're going to get crushed isn't even a factor anymore. It's we might win by a point or two, or they're up by a touchdown. So let's take the brakes and pump them a little bit and kind of glide to the end of the game. I don't see gliding to the end of the game as being as competitive as athletes are capable of.
Yeah, and honestly, that's how the Eagles' offense was the majority of the year, and it put a lot of pressure on their defense. Their defense, even with losing Milton Williams to the Patriots, who has been playing really, honestly, the sack of Justin Herbert that Milton Williams had sealed the game for the Patriots. I love that Milton Williams is having continued success in the playoffs, so more power to him. Like the Eagles defense last season, they lost a lot of good pieces, but they were still a very good defense. But the Eagles offense they didn't pull their weight. They didn't pull their weight, which put a lot of pressure on the defense, and the defense could only do so much. And we saw that against the 49ers. The Eagles defense played well, but they needed the offense to pick it up, and they didn't. And you saw it at the end of the game when the Eagles defense was just gassed because they were on the field so much. So, for me, my autopsy report is offensive coordinator. A lot of coordinator candidates out there. Do you get an older guy like a Todd Monken that isn't going to go anywhere? Maybe. Do you get a younger guy, more offensive guru guy like a Mike McDaniels? That name is interesting, but my concern is he has a good year. Maybe we go to the Super Bowl again and win it, and then he's gone, and we're right back to where we started again. So is that just going to be the Philadelphia cycle? Like it's madness.
You kind of need to kick that revolving door, and shut it down at some point, and have some longevity where the players are capable of knowing. Like when you're changing that much, the players can't get into a system and remain there. You know, you might have when franchise players aren't capable of adapting to the changes, it says something.
It's funny that you say that, Fred. Sorry, it's funny you say that, Fred, because as you were saying that, there was one name I was thinking about: AJ Brown. We saw all this season how PO'd AJ Brown was with the offense and how vocal he was about it. And honestly, yes, he got his yards, but I can't really blame the man.
Yeah.
He knew the offense wasn't playing up to potential. He knew it wasn't good enough. And yet nothing changed. So that screen, that visual that we have of the Eagles versus the San Francisco 49ers in Philadelphia with him and Nick Sirianni screaming at each other, I can't blame the guy. Like I can't blame him. So another interesting name out there for Eagles offensive coordinator is the former Giants head coach, Brian Daboll. He has history with Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith. I wouldn't be opposed because if Brian Daboll were to come to the Eagles, he has a much better roster overall than he had with the Giants. And let's face it, he's a good offensive mind. He just didn't have the pieces or the front office to support him in New York.
You're going to say he's a good offensive mind when he started Russell Wilson?
That was
I would
that forced upon him.
I would have to say now that's to be clarified, because that's my assumption given what he said, to Harbaugh about the office needing to change. But if it was his decision to start Wilson, which in the interviews for the second game, he defended it wholeheartedly, whether he was supposed to or he really wanted to.
Hi, Becky.
I feel like if it was him truly defending that, then I would be very leery about him being, the offense guy. Now, I will say this: if he was hogtied with the Giants, having a little bit more freedom with the Eagles might give him the ability to do something more. That could be the case. Now, it's like I said, it's more of a he said, she said thing at this point, and I guess we'll have to see how that pans out for him. If he doesn't go to the Eagles, I don't know who else would really be all that interested.
The Browns.
Yeah. So for me, there's pros and cons with all of the candidates out there. I'm not a huge Todd Monken fan. I've heard Kevin Stefanski being floated out there, but I'm not a huge Kevin Stefanski fan either.
Todd Monken is going with John Harbaugh. It's already been reported that he is going to be sticking with Harbaugh wherever Harbaugh goes.
So that eliminates Todd Monken. So again, that eliminates one guy. So it would come down to like Kevin Stefanski, who I'm not a huge fan of, Mike McDaniel, which I would love, but he's a guy that wants to be a head coach. So again, we're going to be in this cycle again. Or
you guys want to hear something funny? You want to hear something funny? Guess who the Lions interviewed for offensive coordinator today? Arthur Smith.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I love it as a Packers fan. I hope they hire that guy. That is great news for us.
So now, what do I think that the Eagles need to do in the draft? Because we've talked about it with the Packers. We talked about it with the Giants, and I've had a lot of time to think about this. They need a few things. Quarterback, you're fine. Jalen Hurts, he's fine. You don't need to change that. That's fine. Running back, you're fine. Wide receiver, there's a lot of talk about maybe the Eagles trading A.J. Brown. I don't see that happening. That's going to be a huge dead cap hit. I don't see that happening unless some team just gives Howie Roseman a deal like 4 first-round picks that he just can't say no to. Like, I don't see the Eagles getting rid of A.J. Brown. And, guys, you can give me your opinion on that later. I think tight end is going to be a position of need. Dallas Goedert had a career year. Grant Calcaterra, he's at the end of his rookie contract. Kylan Granson, he didn't do anything. So, pretty much you don't have anybody at tight end. So, do you bring back Dallas Goedert? Do you bring back Grant Calcaterra? Do you draft somebody? So tight end is going to be a position of need. Offensive line across the board is going to be a position of need. Then on the defensive side, defensive line, you got to make some decisions. Jordan Davis is going to need paid. Jalen Carter is going to need paid. I would love to keep Jalen Phillips. Are you going to be able to keep Jalen Phillips? Can't really tell you. Nakobe Dean, he's going to need to get paid. Can you keep Nakobe Dean, especially after you just drafted Jahad Campbell, who you saw in the beginning of the year, but then you didn't at the end? I really do think the Eagles need to draft a legit cornerback to play opposite of Quinyon Mitchell, and they need to, if they don't bring back Jalen Phillips, they need to draft an edge rusher. And then safety. They drafted Andrew Makuba, but he was hurt. And I'm not sure if they're going to bring back Reed Blankenship. He was up and down. So I think safety. So if I had to say anything, I would say for the Eagles, tight end, offensive line, defensive line, including edge rusher, cornerback, and safety.
Okay.
So basically just replace the team, and that would work.
No big deal.
But I'm interested to know what you guys think as far as, and I know we're getting a little long in the tooth here, but what do you guys think of the whole A.J. Brown situation? Because we know he's been disgruntled all year long, but as I mentioned, even if the Eagles were to trade him, that would result in a $20 million cap hit. So unless another team is willing to give the Eagles cash to soften that, I don't see that happening. Again, unless somebody offers the Eagles Roseman just can't say no to. How do we think this A.J. Brown situation is going to play out next season in Philadelphia?
I think Howie Roseman's a freaking magician, and if anybody can pull it off, he's the guy to do it.
So does that mean that he stays or that he trades?
What I'm saying is if he is to be traded and you guys are going to pull off a deal for it, Howie Roseman's the guy to do it. That's essentially what I'm trying to get at.
So non-committal.
Yeah.
Fred, what do you think? I know as a Giants fan, you would love to see A.J. Brown gone because A.J. Brown has been torching you guys for the past 3 seasons now.
Well, here's the way I look at it. Just from a purely Eagles perspective, keeping the Giants out of it. I look at it as with an incoming new head coach, do you keep a disgruntled player?
You mean offensive coordinator, right?
Yeah. Offensive coordinator. Do you keep the disgruntled player and win him over, which will take time? or do you push for the disgruntled player to leave the system, get rid of the negative apple, and kind of open up other opportunities, maybe, deeper in the depth chart, or by, getting a rookie in, maybe coming off with a trade that no one's expecting, that, does offer, like you said, the cash, the capability of pulling off, the miracle, but it doesn't have to be, in order to be a crucial part. If we take it from a Moneyball perspective, how many yards does he need to make per game to make it worthwhile? The name is irrelevant. If someone's capable of getting close to those stats,
but can he get on base?
Right, but can he get on base? Like, if someone's willing, someone who is a sleeper, so to speak, is capable of putting the same numbers on the board with the a little bit stronger offensive line that's on your wish list, do you really need the name? And is that going to be worthwhile to replace, to give, a fresh face, some positivity, and some momentum moving forward? So I think if a trade is possible, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world for the Eagles.
Gotcha. So we're leaning from non-committal to trade his ass.
Well, honestly, I've seen a lot of teams have players that just kind of spoil the pot,
like T.O.
And
like T.O. Ironically, was an Eagle,
right? when you take that negativity, and you have a new coach who's attempting to kind of turn things upside down, you don't want someone who doesn't trust head coaches. You don't want someone who, for whatever, doesn't trust the young guy as a coach, or doesn't trust the old guy because he doesn't really know how things are now. Whatever the scenario is, negativity is negativity. And when you have a team that is capable of more than what they're producing, negativity can be the variable that keeps that from happening.
So here's my frozen take. And I'm going to make this frozen take knowing full well that it's not going to happen. And if it happens, boy, howdy, I'm going to wish I put money on it, because I would have got a lot of money. I saw somebody else say this, and it makes a lot of sense. I can't believe I'm about to say this on the internet. The Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles trade wide receivers Justin Jefferson and A.J. Brown, maybe some other depth pieces and some cash. Makes some sense for A.J. Brown and the Vikings. Makes some sense for Justin Jefferson.
No, it doesn't. Justin Jefferson's not leaving Minnesota. That ain't happening. There ain't no way Minnesota's ever going to go for that. That is a pipe dream, sir.
What if they offer free soda in the locker room?
As you said, crazier things have happened. So,
here, Ray's got something good
here. I got
here.
two things I want to close up here real quick. The first one is we didn't make our picks for this week's divisional round.
Let's make our picks.
So, the first game we have is Saturday at 4:30. We have the Buffalo Bills traveling to Denver. And that game, for me personally, I'm leaning towards taking Buffalo on this one.
Oh, you know what? I've been riding the Denver train. I'm taking Denver.
I still get so annoyed by how many commercials Manning is still in, and it bothers me. And so, just on that whim, maybe it's just because I'm tired. Maybe it's because I know I have a few hours left before I got to be out in the freezing cold and, be worse off than a squirrel that's lost its own nuts. I kind of feel like I'm gonna go. Yeah, I got to go against the Broncos on this one. Sorry, bud.
He's picking with me. That's how you know he's going to lose this one.
No, well, that's why I said there's got to be something wrong with me because I never go, all in with Ray.
That's right. So the next one is the game that I'm personally the most intrigued in. It's the 8 o'clock Saturday game, 49ers in Seattle. I've been high on the 49ers ever since we did our podcast with 5 weeks left in the regular season, and they only dropped one game that whole stretch, and that was to Seattle of all teams. But like I've said for the longest time here, I do not have faith in Sam Darnold in the postseason, and I have a lot of faith in the 49ers, the way they do their next man up and the way they fought through injuries and just keep on plugging along. I'm going to keep on that train. I'm taking the 49ers in this one over the Seahawks.
Didn't we already point out the Seahawks injuries currently?
No, that was the Patriots.
Well, no. Aren't there?
Well, we did say Sam Darnold is questionable.
Yes.
He's questionable. It's not confirmed whether he's going to play or not. He's just
but that's a pretty big variable.
Yes. Very much so, yes.
I would put if I were a betting man, which there's only one thing I bet on, and that's dice.
But
if I were a sports betting man, I'm putting my money on the Seahawks. And as we said before, the Seahawks have been quietly the best team in the NFL. They've just been the quiet team that's just been dominant, but has been making a lot of noise. I'm going Seahawks. I think this is finally when the 49ers injuries catch up to them.
That was the Vikings last year. They were the quiet team that nobody talked about because of Sam Darnold leading the way. And look how they closed out that year, too.
Yeah, we'll see. Fred?
Okay. On this one, I know that Seattle has been, kind of the steady horse. They have been without, a whole lot of headlines, really been, keeping everyone in check. But it worked for me last round with the any given Sunday and rooting for the Bears that I really think that the San Francisco has nothing else going for it right now. Nothing else going for it but their football team. And so we're going to throw them a bone. I'm going to go with the 49ers.
Holy cow, Fred's picking with me, and Alex is the opposite this time. Oh, my God. I'm about to have a heart attack doing this.
I'm the one that wins. If I'm the one that's right, I'm just...
Wait. Where are we at? Yeah.
If you guys are wrong and I'm right, I'm going to laugh.
So the third game on slated, which is Sunday at 3 o'clock, you have the Texans heading
up. Which
up
team
to
are we
New England.
picking, Ray? I'm just kidding.
For me, though, I've been high on Houston for a while. Alex has doubted them most of the season, and Houston has proved Alex wrong, which he's allowed to be wrong. He's an Eagles fan, but that's besides the point. I think Houston's defense is going to be a lot for New England to handle. And I think Stroud's had a rough game last week against Pittsburgh. I can't imagine him having 2 rough games in a row with all those turnovers. I think they go into New England and they upset the Patriots. I'm taking Houston on this one. Oh, Fred's shaking his head. Here's where it ends.
New England. For the exact opposite reasons that Ray said. I don't need to say anything else.
Now I wish I hadn't brought up the injuries and stuff. Okay. Hey, as you promised before the stream, my Cash App. Anyway, this pick is based on reality, not on Ray's pipe dreams of us picking all the same teams.
Okay.
The reality to me is that right now the Patriots have unexpected changes they've had to make because of injuries. And I think those unexpected injuries late in the season like this, they're kind of scrambling to do what they can to come up with something to fight the momentum that they're about to face. So, as much as it pains me to say this, I am rooting against the Patriots.
Oh my God.
Ray,
3 for 3.
Ray, if you sabotage me this week, I'm going to be so upset.
If I go 4-0, I'm going to laugh at all y'all.
Oh, this is warming my heart so far. So,
warming all your cockles.
The last game of the week is going to be the Los Angeles Rams heading into Chicago to take on the Bears. I've already made my point on this. I think it's going to be an NFC West NFC championship. I don't think the Bears are a good enough team to start off quick enough to keep up with the Rams. I think this is Rams all day.
I agree. Rams all day.
And this is where I am redeeming myself. I wash my hands of the Ray stuff. Okay, here's what I said it before. It is absolutely the Bears' game to lose. They've shown they can adapt. They've shown they have the offensive capabilities. They've shown they have the defensive capabilities. If they are able to read and adapt and adjust as the game goes on, I think they have every capability of winning that game. I think it's going to be a lot closer of a game than what you guys are expecting for sure. But I think even though the solidity might appear to be on your side, I definitely think that the Bears' adaptability and strength against that adversity is capable of keeping that momentum.
All right. Me and Ray are going to be taking the Rams, and Fred's going to be taking the Bears. Oh, boy, oh, boy.
Go Bears.
I have one more thing I would like to do with you guys, and I know we're getting really into this. We got to wrap it up here.
Whoa, Ray. We're on camera now.
Oh, well, my bad.
Okay, never mind. What?
Okay. Anyway, well, let's save that for post-stream. My bad. Anyway, so while Fred was talking about how sometimes you just go out there with the NFL, it's not as much hard. It's you go out there, you have a good game, you have a bad game. I decided to dive into a flash from the past. I wanted to bring up a game where I bring you guys stats from each game, and I want you to tell me who you think won this game. I'll give you a team A, team B, and then I'll tell you who each team was and what the final score was. This was a game back from October of 2006. So let's go back. Go back about 19, 20 years here. So
shut up.
So team A, that game, all 4 quarters, 360 yards, 15 first downs. They had 6 penalties for 70 yards. They converted only 7 of 19 third downs, 1 of 3 fourth downs, and had the ball for 35 minutes. Team B only had 98 yards, 9 first downs. They had 5 penalties for 45 yards. They only converted 1 of 11 third downs, 0 for 1 on fourth down, and had the ball for 25 minutes.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely. You can each ask a question.
One question?
I'll let you each have 2 if you'd like.
2. Was there a 4th and 26?
No.
Okay.
Screw you for that. No.
Was the color of either team blue?
No.
Okay.
So, Fred, do you have anything you'd like to ask for this? There's one key question that I didn't state as a stat that I'm surprised Alex didn't ask.
2006 was
6.
the last year of Cower?
No, that was Tomlin still. I think that might have been the first year for Tomlin.
Okay.
So, Team A or Team B? I'm going to lock in. I know the stats say not to, but something tells me this is a catch-22. I'm going to lock in Team B, the one that had like 95 yards.
What do you think, Fred?
Well, if my math serves me, you said 75 yards of penalties?
70 yards penalties for Team A, 45 for Team B.
70 yards of penalties, erases. What was their yardage?
360.
Okay.
Where Team B had 45 yards of penalties and only 98 yards.
Yeah, so really it's only 100 yards difference. So
I'm surprised neither of you asked about turnovers because I never stated that number.
You did not. Interesting. Interesting.
Well, there had to have been some that were that was overturned. Yeah. What was the defensive yards on that?
I don't have defensive yards listed here.
Because that makes a big difference if if there's 95 yards, but the defense is who scored.
Yeah, like if it was like Team A had 300 some odd yards of offense, but couldn't score a single touchdown, but Team B's defense had a pick 6.
Right. So I'm going to go with Team B as being the winner.
Okay. Well, I will give it to you guys here. You both were right. It was Team B. This was the 2006 game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Oakland Raiders.
I thought it was the Steelers. That's why I said the Cower, pre-Cower, post-Cower era.
Where Ben Roethlisberger threw 25 for 37, 300 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 interceptions. Whereas his quarterback counterpart went 5 for 14 for 54 yards and an interception. And the Raiders won 20-13.
I remember watching that game with a diehard Pittsburgh fan. Shout out Kirk if you I remember the meltdown that occurred when all the interceptions were being thrown. And not so happy football watching party that was happening at that point.
Can I go for extra points here and say that the Raiders quarterback was Rich Gannon?
No.
Dang it.
The Raiders quarterback that game was a guy named Andrew Walter.
Who?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was fun, right? That was a fun little tidbit.
That was a good one.
Here's another one for you. The leading receiver for the Raiders that game, Randy Moss. 2 catches for 20 yards.
That was his worst production of his entire career.
So that was a little flashback from the past for you guys. I know he talked about no heart, and it made me think, isn't there a game that a team put in a lot of heart and didn't do jack shit for stats and still won the game. I was like, I know that game, and I looked it up real quick because I wanted to play that with you guys here. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. I knew the Steelers had to be the high scorer in 06. Big Ben was the yard producer, but obviously the blight of the Pittsburgh fans at that point was tons and tons and tons of interceptions.
I'll have another game for you guys next week when we do another podcast. We'll see what you guys can figure out with that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Good. And with that, we're going to call it an episode. We've had a lot to talk about this episode. Man, oh man. If you've stuck around with us for this entire podcast, kudos to you. Leave us a comment down below about your picks for this next week. And also, if your team didn't make the playoffs this year, or if they did and they lost, leave your own comment below for your autopsy report. Let us know your thoughts on your team, how they performed, how they can do better, and what's to come. This is Frozen Takes. I'm Alex. I'm with my friends. Oh, sorry, my dog was on me. I'm with my friends Ray and Fred. Until next time, stay frosty out there. We are Frozen Takes.
Have a good night, everybody.
Peace.